When the cameras shut off and the screams of armies faded into the night, Jungkook would sometimes just sit there, still, quiet, lost in a world that no one else saw. Fans saw perfection, stage after stage, a voice that could rise and tremble with emotion, a body that danced like it carried the soul of every song. But there was always something else, something just beneath the surface. And no one believed what he was doing until the truth came out. It started with a whisper. A staff member noticed it first. He always stayed behind, they said. Even when everyone left. He would sit there, not on his phone, not taking selfies. Just thinking. Like he was waiting for something or someone. To outsiders, it looked like he was resting. Maybe recharging. But to those who paid attention, there was a pattern. Jungkook wasn't just lingering. He was hiding something. Or more accurately, he was preparing for something. Something he couldn't explain to anyone yet. He had built a routine that was invisible to the world. After every concert, once the final bow was done and the lights dimmed, Jungkook would change into something simple, sometimes a hoodie, sometimes just a plain black shirt. And instead of heading straight to the hotel, he would vanish. No bares. No manajes. Just him. A ghost in the city. Where was he going? And more importantly, why? It took years before anyone caught on. Fans speculated endlessly. Was it a relationship? A secret project? But the truth was something far more unimaginable. And it was hidden in plain sight. He wasn't going out to party. He wasn't sneaking away for fame. He was working alone. On something personal. Something deeply emotional. In backrooms of dance studios he paid for himself. In tiny rented apartments that no one knew existed. At midnight, when most idols slept, he was building something by hand. It began the day his mother told him, quietly over a phone call, that she used to dream of becoming a painter. Before you were born, she had said, I wanted to go to art school. I gave it up. We couldn't afford it. That one sentence never left him. While BTS skyrocketed to fame, while the world cheered his every move, Jungkook quietly began collecting her old drawings. He visited her childhood home. He spoke with relatives. He found sketches folded inside old cookbooks. He began framing them, some cracked and faded with time. Others barely finished. But he treated them like gold. Then he began recreating them. He hired mentors in secret. Not to train his voice or his choreography, but to teach him visual art. How to blend colors the way she used to. How to hold a brush the way she never got to. And every night, after the world went quiet, he painted. Not for fame, not for sale, but for her, and slowly, his apartment filled with them. Replicas of her dreams. He called the project, quietly in his journal, What Could Have Been. No one believed this. Not the stylists, not the label executives, not even the members, because he never told them. Until one day, a curator from a Seoul gallery received an anonymous shipment of works signed simply with a letter, JK. It wasn't long before the gallery traced it back. And when the truth emerged, it shocked even those who thought they knew him best. This isn't just talent, the curator said. This is love in every brushstroke. This is a son trying to recreate a dream for his mother, stroke by stroke, memory by memory. The gallery offered to do an exhibit. He refused. Not unless she approved. When his mother saw the paintings for the first time, she wept. You remembered the flowers, she said, tracing the edges of a still life he had redone for memory. I remembered everything, he replied. The truth had come out. And the world began to understand. This wasn't just a pop star with global fame. This was a son who had quietly spent years rebuilding a dream that had died long ago, and suddenly, everything made sense. The silences, the disappearances, the emotion in his performances. It wasn't just art. It was redemption, a tribute, a hidden world of meaning behind every note he sang, and no one believed what Jungkook was doing until the truth came out. And now, we all see him a little differently. Before the first stadium roared with Jungkook's voice, before the sold-out tours and chart-topping singles, there was a small room in Busan. A place where dreams were fragile and silence was sacred. This was where it began, not with a microphone, but with a memory his mother used to hum a song that it didn't have a name.
No lyrics.
Just a melody she repeated while folding laundry, cooking dinner, or watching the rain slide down their apartment windows. Jungkook never asked about it. Not until years later. He was 21, lying in a hotel room after a concert, headphones off, soul exhausted. That melody floated back into his mind like smoke. And for the first time, he wrote it down. Not just as notes, but as feeling.
He didn't know why.
He just knew he had to preserve it. That moment started something. Quietly, behind closed doors, Jungkook began building what he called the Forgotten Melody Project. It was more than a song. It was a reconstruction of a lullaby that had never been recorded, written, or sung on stage. A piece of his past, and his mother's. He searched for it obsessively. He called relatives. He even asked neighbors from Busan if they remembered hearing it. But no one did. He did the only thing he could, recreate it from memory. He worked with classical musicians in secret. People who understood the depth of memory, the psychology of sound, how tones could revive something long buried. He studied the intervals, the patterns. He added layers, violins, then cello, then piano. Each layer crafted to mimic the warmth of a rainy afternoon in their old apartment. It took 3 years. Not because it was complicated, but because it had to feel right. During that time, he kept it hidden even from BTS. He labeled it under a code name in his computer. And every time he added a new instrument, he sent a copy to a vault, an encrypted cloud storage linked to a single person, his mother. She didn't know what it was. Only that once in a while, an email would arrive titled, "Listen when you're ready." One day, she did. The first note made her freeze. By the 5th, she was in tears. And by the end, she called him, barely able to speak. "You remembered," she whispered. "I never forgot," he said. The project wasn't just for her. It was because of her. He eventually released a variation of the melody in a BTS track, hidden in the bridge. Fans thought it was a beautiful interlude. They didn't know it was the song his mother sang when he was 5, holding him in her arms during blackouts, when the only light in their home came from the moon. The full version, however, has never been released. It exists only in that vault. And Jungkook has said, if he ever disappears from the public eye, if the world ever forgets his name, that melody will remain. As proof of what love sounds like, because some songs don't need lyrics, they just need to be remembered. The night Jungkook vanished wasn't on any tour schedule, nor was it marked by scandal. There were no paparazzi photos, no army theories trending on Twitter. It was ordinary, deceptively so. A quiet evening after a Seoul performance. The kind of night when idols rest, recharge, or post a few selfies. But Jungkook didn't post anything. He didn't check in. And for 24 hours, no one, not even the members of BTS, knew where he was. It wasn't the first time he disappeared, but it was the first time anyone truly noticed. Jin had texted. No reply. Namjoon called, voicemail. Jimin assumed he just needed space. But behind the concern was something deeper. Because this time, Jungkook had left behind a note. Folded, taped to the inside of his closet door. A single sentence in his handwriting. Don't worry. I'm chasing a memory. It was cryptic and strangely poetic. But it was also Jungkook. And that made it more unsettling. Where had he gone? The label panicked quietly behind closed doors. His security team retraced his last known location, the back exit of the concert venue, a black hoodie pulled over his head. He walked into the Seoul night without a driver. No one followed. No CCTV caught his direction, but he hadn't vanished without reason. In reality, he had boarded a bus to Busan. Alone, he wore a mask, a bucket hat, and headphones. Not to avoid attention, but to protect what he was carrying. A single photograph of his mother at age 17, holding a canvas she never got to finish. The canvas was the key. Jungkook had tracked it down weeks earlier through an art supply dealer who remembered his mother from decades ago. The dealer kept it in storage, unsure why he never threw it away. When Jungkook found out it still existed, he made arrangements. Quietly, the night he vanished, he wasn't lost. He was retrieving a piece of her dream. The journey was emotional. Sitting in the back of that bus, Jungkook watched the city lights give way to countryside silence. With every mile, he wasn't just getting closer to the canvas, he was going back in time. To a version of himself before BTS. Before stadiums. Before expectations. Just a boy who watched his mother paint while they both imagined a life that seemed impossible. When he arrived at the small shop, the dealer didn't recognize him at first. But then the eyes. He said it was the eyes that gave him away. "You're her son," he said. "Aren't you?" Jungkook nodded. The canvas was wrapped in brown paper, brittle from age. When he unwrapped it, the store grew quiet. It wasn't finished, just a sketched outline of a field, a tree, and a girl under it. But the emotion was unmistakable. She was painting herself, the dealer said. Free. Jungkook didn't speak. He just stared. And then, after a long silence, he said something strange. "I think I need to finish it." And so he did. He rented a small studio near the coast, a place where no one knew him. For 3 days he painted, not with the flair of an artist, but with the devotion of a son. Every stroke was a dialogue, every color a memory. When he returned to Seoul, he still hadn't told anyone. He kept the canvas hidden in his closet. He hung it only once, on his mother's birthday. When she saw it, she didn't speak. She just walked closer, touched the brushstrokes and whispered, "You finished what I couldn't." That was the night she finally understood why her son kept disappearing. Why his eyes carried a weight that no fame could explain. He wasn't just chasing dreams. He was healing something far older than stardom, and for the first time, the silence around him made perfect sense. There's a room in HYB that most people never talk about. It's not the recording studio where BTS polished their global hits. Not the dance practice room with mirrored walls and worn-out floors. No, it's smaller. Tucked behind a row of sound booths and locked with a digital code only a handful of staff know. It's where raw vocals are stored. Demo tracks. Secret verses. Fragments of songs that never made it to the light. And somewhere on a hard drive inside that room is a file with no label, no artist name, no producer tag. Just a timestamp, and a voiced Jungkook's voice. But this isn't a song meant for the charts. It's not even meant for fans. It's something else entirely. Recorded at 3:12 a.m. on a rainy Thursday morning when the building was empty and the world was asleep. And no one was supposed to hear it, except one person. The track begins with silence. Then soft breaths. A faint click of a lighter. He always liked candles while recording alone. Then his voice. Not polished. Not perfected. Just raw. "This is for you, Yama," he says softly. Then he sings. The melody isn't familiar. It's not a BTS track. Not one of his solo songs. It's vulnerable, almost broken in parts. But the emotion undeniable. Each line feels like a confession, like the words had been trapped in his chest for years and finally had room to breathe. "I saw you cry when you thought I was asleep. You gave up everything so I could dream. I were the crown now, but it was your hands that built it. I stand on stages, but I hear your voice in the silence." The lyrics aren't polished. They're raw sketches, improvised, unrehearsed. But that's what makes it beautiful. The staff member who found it had been archiving old sessions. The moment they heard the track, they paused. They knew it wasn't meant for them. But they also knew this recording told a story no documentary ever could, a story of sacrifice, a story of gratitude so deep it could only be expressed in song. Jungkook never released it. He never played it for the members, never hinted at its existence. But later, when the story of his secret art project leaked to the press, when the world began realizing how deeply his mother had shaped his path, that file resurfaced. The label asked if he wanted to include it in his solo debut. He said no. "It's not for the world," he replied. It's for her. But quietly, he burned the song onto a single CD. No title, just a black case with gold marker on the back. When words fail. He gave it to her on a spring morning after breakfast. No cameras, no special occasion. Just a silent exchange between mother and SON, and no one knows what she said. No one saw her reaction. But later that night, she sent him a message. It's the first time I heard your heart louder than your voice. The next day, he went into the studio and recorded 3 more tracks, not for the charts, not for release schedule, but because finally, after all these years, he felt ready to create not for fans, not for fame, but for himself, and for the woman who taught him what love sounds like long before the world called him a star.